Hello, in this video tutorial we'll go over the process of installing and running Getgud SDK on Unreal Engine 5 on Linux. To do that, let's open a few links to start with. We'll open Unreal Engine server integration tutorial right here. We'll use it for the integration. And we'll open our C++ Getgud SDK repository because we'll need to clone from it. And then do the installation for Unreal Engine 5. Now that we have opened those two links, let's go ahead and clone C++ Getgud SDK repository. To do that, I'll copy the link to the repository and I'll go ahead into a Linux terminal and I'll type git clone link to the repository, and we have cloned the repository. Now let's open Unreal Engine 5 and let's create a client-server Getgud project there. To start Unreal Engine 5, I'll start it from the terminal by calling Unreal Editor. Once Unreal Editor opens, let's select a first-person project. Here we'll select C++, and we also need to make sure that starter content is enabled. Now let's give our project a name. Name should be client server Getgud. It's important to close a project like that because the files we have in the examples of our C++ repository rely on the project name to be client server Getgud. Now let's go ahead and create the project. The creation will take some time. Now that our Unreal Engine 5 project was created, let's close it. I'll also close this terminal window. And we'll need to copy a few files from Getgud SDK examples to client server Getgud. To do that, I'll open a new terminal window and I'll cd into the folder where I have client server Getgud and C++ Getgud SDK. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to enter client server Getgud project, and from here I'm going to delete the source folder. Once this is done, I'll go into C++ Getgud SDK, examples, Unreal Engine 5. Here, as you see, we have client server Getgud folder with the project. And here we have three folders: plugins, source, and third party. We need to copy those three folders into our just created client server Getgud project. To do that, I'll use a copy command. So using this command, we'll copy plugin, source, and third party folders into Getgud client server Getgud project. Let's go ahead and do it. Those three folders were copied, and now we'll need to also bring include and SRC files from our SDK into the project, because Unreal handles SDK build by itself, but we need to provide it SRC and include folders. To copy include and SRC folders, we'll need to copy them in two places. So first, let's just copy the include. So I'll type cpr include, and we'll need to bring it into client server Getgud, third party Getgud SDK include folder. This is done. Now let's copy both include and SRC, and I'll need to copy this into downloads Getgud client server Getgud, plugins, Getgud SDK, source, Getgud SDK module, third party folder. This is done. Now we'll just have to delete a few files because our original SDK implementation contains some C files. Unreal Engine 5 will not build with those C files, so I'll have to delete them. I'll do it through the file manager. I'll open client server Getgud. I'll open first a third-party folder, Getgud SDK, include. Here I'll delete this C file. Now let's do the same in the plugin folders we just used. Go into Getgud SDK, source, SDK model, third party. In include, I'll delete the same file, SDK C, and then I'll go to src, and here I'll delete SDK C CPP file. Okay, this is done. Okay, now that we have successfully copied the files, we'll have to adjust the code in the client-server Getgud project a bit for our needs. So what I'll do is that I'll cd into client-server Getgud project, and I'll just open source from here, and here I'll call Visual Studio to open, because we'll need to adjust a couple of files. So once Visual Studio opens, or you can do it through any other file manager or Vim or Nano, you can see the files we are using for Getgud SDK. Here I'll open the client-server Getgud player controller file, and here we'll need to set up your title ID and your private key. If you don't remember those two variables, you can go into your Getgud dashboard, into the Manage tab, and here in the title section, you can pick your title and click on Reset Private Key. This will reset private key for your title and will give you details of your title ID and private key. So here I'm going to copy title ID 219, and I'm going to paste it right here. And I'm also going to copy the private key, the string, and I'm going to paste it right here. So now we can save this. To understand how Getgud SDK works, you can scroll through these two files. One is a player controller and another one is a Getgud character. So here in the Unreal Engine 5 example project, we are starting the server, and we are calling start game and start match of Getgud SDK. Great. Now when we have configured everything we needed in the code, let's go ahead and open Unreal Engine editor back. From here we'll select our client-server Getgud project, and when Unreal Engine asks to rebuild the project, we'll go ahead and rebuild it. Once we have rebuilt the project and we are inside Unreal Engine again, we'll click this button to recompile C++ code. Okay, C++ code was recompiled successfully. Now to make our server part work, we need to set up two environment variables. One environment variable is Getgud config path, another one is Getgud log file path. Config path variable leads to the config JSON file. This config JSON file can be found in the root folder of our CPP repository. Here, if I'll do ls, we have config JSON here. I'm just going to copy this config JSON file into our client-server Getgud project. Now we go back into client-server Getgud project, and here we have our config file. Now we need to set up those two environment variables. I'm just going to set up Getgud config path to the config file, which is the root of the client-server Getgud project. And I'm going to do the same for the log file path. I'm going to set the path as the root of the project, even though this logs.txt file does not exist yet in this root. It will become available as soon as we start running server. So I'm setting up this variable to the same path as the config JSON, but to logs.txt file. Once we set up those two variables, we can actually run the server. It's important to run the server from the same terminal window as you set those environment variables. Otherwise, the server from Unreal Engine may not get those environment variables correctly. But actually, before doing this, let's do a few extra steps on the client part of our solution. To prepare the client for running on the server correctly, let's open the client, and here in the edit project settings I have to set two options. So I'll go into maps and modes. Here I'll go into default maps advanced, and here it's important to set the server default map to first person map. And in game instance class I'm going to set it at Getgud instance. This is important for us to be able to write logs. Now we can actually close this. And after that we can finally start running the server. To run the server, we have to call, as usual, our Unreal editor with a couple of extra parameters. It's important to run your Unreal editor from the same terminal where you set up your environment variables. Otherwise, it may not be able to get them correctly. So first parameter I'm going to enter is the path to the uproject file of our Unreal Engine 5 solution. It should be the full path. So here I'm entering home, Ubuntu, downloads, Getgud, client server Getgud, and client server Getgud uproject. And then we just copy a few parameters from the docs, which start the server. So once these logs and build finishes, the server will start. So once the project starts, we can actually connect to it from the client. So I'll click play, and here in the command console I'll type open 127.0.0.1 and port 777. We have just connected to the server. We can run around, have a bit of sensitivity problem in the remote cloud, but I'm running around, and then we can exit and we can check the logs. So in the root of client server Getgud, you can see that logs.txt file appeared. Here we see that actions were logged, our config was logged, and then in the end our SDK sent the game to the Getgud cloud. So once this is done, we can actually go ahead and inspect this game on Getgud dashboard. If we open the tab with a Getgud dashboard, we'll see that one match appeared here. We can click replay, and the replay of the match will open. We can inspect what we have been doing while the replay was running. You can see I have a bit of sensitivity problem, and I'm running around in Unreal Engine 5. And you can basically inspect any game like that. You can add more players, you can experiment with actions you're sending to Getgud, and there is 100 more things you can do with Getgud replays. Thanks for watching the tutorial.